No, I really didn't. I didn't remember when he left.
Pernell Roberts, forever etched in memory as the intellectual eldest son, Adam Cartwright on Bonanza, was far more than a talented actor. He was an uncompromising artist whose principles superseded professional success. Behind the polished exterior and the smooth, resonant voice was a fiercely opinionated man whose ideals clashed violently with the realities of Hollywood. While most contemporaries navigated the industry with silent compliance, Roberts chose the opposite path: radical, vocal integrity. He openly admitted that his professional journey was riddled with conflicts, fueled by actors who embraced the commercialism he disdained, whose values felt fundamentally opposed to his own, or who simply lacked the artistic conviction he held sacred. Today, we will shift focus from mere feuds to examining the 5 defining ideological clashes that cemented Pernell Roberts's reputation as Hollywood's most principled rebel, revealing the surprising professional gulf behind each legendary confrontation. You will gain a new appreciation for the moral courage of these classic Hollywood figures. But before we delve into the core conflicts, if the story of a star who chose conscience over comfort resonates with you, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. We are dedicated to sharing the complex, often challenging truths behind the lives of classic Hollywood icons and Western legends. Pernell Elvin Roberts, Jr. was born on May 18, 1928, in Waycross, Georgia. He was the only child of Minnie Myrtle Morgan Roberts and Pernell Roberts, Sr., a sales manager for Dr. Pepper. Raised in the American South amidst the lingering shadows of the Great Depression, Pernell experienced a quiet, modest childhood. From an early age, his affinity for the performing arts was evident. He found his first voice playing the horn and tuba in school and Marine Corps bands, and by participating in various church dramatic performances. This early passion for music and drama formed the bedrock of his character. Yet a career in acting was initially not his aim. Following high school graduation, he briefly enrolled at Georgia Tech, pursuing engineering. However, the rigidity of that field quickly convinced him it was not his true calling. His need for structure and discipline led him to the United States Marine Corps, where he enlisted in 1946 and served for 2 pivotal years. It was through his continued role in the Marine Corps Band that he maintained his essential connection to performance. After receiving his honorable discharge, Roberts matriculated at the University of Maryland. Here, he became thoroughly immersed in the student theater program, finally realizing that acting was the full-time pursuit he needed. Roberts made the audacious decision to leave college without completing his degree, prioritizing his artistic instincts over academic formality. This conviction led him to New York City in the early 1950s, where he enrolled to study at the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts. The years that followed were a testament to his persistence, marked by grinding odd jobs to cover his living expenses. His tenacity was finally rewarded in 1952 when he secured his first professional stage role in a production of The Man Who Came to Dinner. This seemingly small debut was a major milestone, setting the stage for what would become an influential and frequently controversial acting career, defined by Pernell Roberts's utter refusal to adhere to any script but his own ethical code. After his 1952 debut in The Man Who Came to Dinner, Pernell Roberts dedicated himself to mastering the craft of theater. His powerful stage presence, the striking quality of his voice, and a foundational commitment to deeply exploring character work rapidly earned him the respect of directors and peers. He became a fixture in the theatrical world, taking on demanding roles in canonical works such as Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and The Taming of the Shrew. His intensive work with the New York Shakespeare Festival established him as a profoundly serious, passionate, and formidable dramatic actor. By the late 1950s, the burgeoning worlds of film and television began to beckon. Roberts successfully transitioned to the screen, making his film debut in 1958's Desire Under the Elms, where he shared the screen with cinematic giants like Sophia Loren and Burl Ives. That same year, he appeared in The Sheep Man, a Western that foreshadowed the genre that would soon dominate and confine his career. He took on a series of television guest roles, honing his screen experience in popular shows including Gunsmoke and The Virginian. Then, in 1959, his professional life irrevocably changed. Pernell Roberts was cast in the role of Adam Cartwright, the eldest and most educated son on NBC's sprawling Western epic, Bonanza. The program became an overnight, colossal success, quickly transforming Roberts into a globally recognized name. Week after week, millions of loyal viewers tuned in for the adventures of the Cartwright patriarch and his three sons on the vast Ponderosa Ranch, where Pernell Roberts stood out, projecting an image of quiet intellect and powerful moral strength. Yet, despite his popularity, Roberts found the role deeply dissatisfying. He consistently clashed with the writers and producers, primarily over the show's increasingly simplistic scripts and the lack of meaningful development for his character. His most significant protest was his belief that the series lacked necessary social relevance and, crucially, artistic challenge. In a career-defining moment of conviction, despite the massive fame it provided, Roberts resigned from Bonanza in 1965 after only 6 seasons. It was a financially shocking and professionally audacious move, one that many predicted would crater his career. But Pernell Roberts was unafraid of beginning anew. He immediately returned to his beloved theater, while selectively accepting guest roles in various television productions. He slowly but deliberately rebuilt his professional standing entirely on his own artistic terms. His dedication was ultimately vindicated in the late 1970s when he landed the lead role in the medical drama Trapper John, M.D., a part that brought him fresh critical acclaim and introduced him to a new, diverse generation of admirers. Now, we shift our focus to Pernell Roberts's list of 5 actors with whom he experienced the most profound professional disconnects, and the surprising ideological differences that underpinned each confrontation. You will never view these particular Hollywood stars the same way after hearing these details. Number 1. Michael Landon, The Conflict of Vision. Roberts' working relationship with Bonanza's charismatic youngest star, Michael Landon, started respectfully but quickly deteriorated as Landon's ambition became transparent. Landon was undeniably charming and immensely popular with the viewing public. However, behind the scenes, Roberts grew convinced that Landon was self-serving and manipulative in his pursuit of influence. As Landon began writing and directing more episodes, his power over the production increased dramatically. Roberts vocally accused him of systematically rewriting scenes to disproportionately feature his own character, Little Joe, effectively sidelining and minimizing the roles of other cast members, particularly his own character, Adam Cartwright. According to production insiders, Roberts once confronted Landon with unflinching directness, stating, "You're not trying to improve the series, you're trying to aggrandize yourself." From that moment forward, the working atmosphere between the two was frigid, with communication limited strictly to the demands of the scene. Roberts deeply disliked Landon's relentless perfectionism and publicly labeled him a media darling who achieved depth only on screen while avoiding it in his personal and professional life. When Roberts finally made his departure from the show, Landon offered no public support or private acknowledgement, a silence that only solidified Roberts's initial judgment. Years later, upon the launch of Landon's new series Little House on the Prairie, Roberts reportedly dismissed it as more of the predictable same. He's still performing the role of the virtuous cowboy, still playing the saint. Number 2, Dan Blocker, The Schism of Courage. The difference with Dan Blocker, the actor who portrayed the immensely popular and gentle Hoss Cartwright, was far less volatile but significantly more damaging to Roberts on a personal level. Roberts and Blocker began their tenure on Bonanza as genuine friends, sharing the background of being classically trained actors who were deeply passionate about their craft. Yet, as Roberts's protests against the studio system and the weak scripts escalated, Blocker began to overtly distance himself. Roberts experienced this as a deep personal betrayal. He believed Blocker should have stood shoulder to shoulder with him in questioning the production's poor writing and its recurring racial insensitivity. Instead, Blocker assumed the function of the studio-approved peacemaker, consistently attempting to diffuse any conflict rather than confronting the underlying problems. In a candid interview, Roberts once observed, "Dan had the inherent kindness, but he lacked the necessary spine. He chose professional comfort over moral conscience." Roberts's convictions were so strong that he once famously walked off the set during a scene because he felt the script was actively degrading a Native American character. He later strongly criticized Blocker for continuing to perform in that scene, telling a colleague, "You always had a choice to make a stand." He always had a choice. A deep, lasting silence gradually settled between them. And while Blocker never publicly condemned Roberts's actions, he also never offered a word of defense. The close friendship faded, leaving Roberts with a feeling of abandonment by the person he had once considered a true professional ally. Number 3, Chuck Connors. The Contempt for Vanity. The conflict with Chuck Connors, the imposing, self-assured star of The Rifleman, originated outside the Ponderosa set, yet it was no less intense in its ideological nature. The two actors were invited to attend a high-profile charity event dedicated to honoring Western television legends. Connors, towering and exuding confidence, was a massive crowd favorite. However, according to several eyewitness accounts, he was visibly dismissive of the behind-the-scenes staff and conducted himself with the arrogance of a Hollywood sovereign. Roberts, a man whose principles always defended the working crew, disliked this display intensely. He reportedly witnessed Connors harshly berate a young assistant for a negligible error. Roberts patiently waited until they were positioned backstage and then directly confronted him. The ensuing argument quickly spiraled out of control, with Roberts labeling Connors a professional fraud. Connors fired back, calling Roberts a bitter quitter who simply could not handle long-term professional success. That intense exchange was the last time the two men ever spoke. Roberts frequently referred to Connors in private as all hat, no soul, and despised what Connors represented, a man who placed his carefully constructed public image above the fundamental human dignity of the people he employed and worked alongside. Number 4, Lorne Greene, The Paternal Opposition. The most celebrated and emotionally charged conflict of Pernell Roberts' career was his protracted tension with Lorne Greene, the actor who portrayed his commanding on-screen father, Ben Cartwright, on Bonanza. The relationship that the global audience viewed as a model of wholesome paternal love, Roberts viewed as something controlling and, metaphorically, suffocating, both in the script and in the production dynamic. Roberts simply despised the way Greene seemed to entirely embrace everything that Bonanza represented. Simplistic stories, unquestioning conservative values, and a deliberate refusal to strive for thematic evolution. Pernell consistently demanded more intellectual depth, genuine moral conflict, and complex character development. Green, in contrast, was the consummate diplomat, always adhering to the direction of the producers and network executives. Roberts interpreted this compliance as a wholesale betrayal of artistic ideals. What started as professional creative differences soon became deeply personal. Roberts believed Green perceived him as a professional threat, an actor who insisted on questioning the scripts, openly challenging the director's choices, and steadfastly refusing to smile for the camera unless the narrative context made genuine sense. Their professional tension was a palpable force throughout Roberts's entire six-season tenure. He was convinced Green wielded too much power, and he felt deep frustration watching the younger cast members defer to Green as if he were their actual patriarch. Roberts's decision to finally quit Bonanza in 1965 meant sacrificing enormous fame and an unprecedented salary. When later pressed for his reasons, he explained with stark clarity, "I simply refuse to spend the remaining years of my professional life pulling off my hat and reciting, 'Yes, Pa.'" To the world, Lorne Greene was universally admired as America's favorite television father. But, to the principled Pernell Roberts, he stood as the enduring symbol of everything that was compromised and creatively stagnant in Hollywood's safe mainstream. Number 5. James Drury, The Political Divide. James Drury, the stoic and reliable star of The Virginian, represented another significant figure with whom Roberts clashed, but over far deeper issues: ethics and political ideology. Roberts was a vocal, uncompromising activist against racism, the increasingly unpopular Vietnam War, and Hollywood's habitual tendency to suppress dissenting, challenging voices. Drury, conversely, was an established, staunch conservative who preferred to scrupulously keep politics and social commentary out of the realm of entertainment. Their sharp ideological opposition turned deeply personal during a 1970s televised panel discussion concerning the future of network television programming. Roberts launched a critique against the major networks for systematically ignoring pressing real-world social issues and for using the Western genre to relentlessly promote outdated conservative values. Drury fired back with equal intensity, arguing, "The public does not tune in to receive moral sermons. They are seeking pure escapism." The two men exchanged intensely heated words, and the event concluded with both actors refusing to exchange a handshake. Roberts later told a confidant, "Drury was never merely an actor. He was a willing mouthpiece for maintaining the status quo." He deeply resented how Drury deliberately remained silent on critical civil rights issues, despite possessing the most influential platform on television to speak up. To Roberts, silence in the face of injustice was never a position of neutrality. It was an act of profound ethical betrayal. Through every triumph and every professional setback, Pernell Roberts remained defiantly true to himself, an actor who consistently refused to compromise his values regardless of the professional cost. Yet, while Pernell Roberts forged a Hollywood reputation for being bold and structurally uncompromising, his personal life was anything but smooth or predictable. Behind the scenes, he grappled with profound emotional turbulence, particularly within his roles as a husband and a father. He married 4 times, and each successive relationship presented its own unique set of severe challenges. His first marriage was to Vera, a professional professor and noted theater expert, which occurred in 1951. The couple had 1 son, Jonathan Christopher Roberts. Pernell possessed a deep, powerful love for his only son, but the unrelenting demands of his accelerating career and his own restless, nonconformist nature made it practically impossible for him to maintain a grounded family life. His marriage to Vera culminated in divorce in 1959. Although he consistently maintained a connection to Jonathan, the relationship was perpetually strained by physical distance and a pervasive emotional disconnect. Roberts's subsequent two marriages, to Judith Anna Lear and Karenak, also both ended in divorce. Many people close to him observed that Pernell was fundamentally a man who needed an expansive degree of personal freedom and severely struggled with the requirement of emotional intimacy. He was famously and fiercely private, often keeping his true feelings securely locked away, which created impenetrable walls between himself and the very people who most profoundly cared about his well-being. But perhaps the single most agonizing tragedy of his private life was the devastating and untimely loss of his only son, Jonathan. In 1989, Jonathan tragically died in a motorcycle accident at the tragically young age of just 38 years old. The loss utterly devastated Pernell. Close friends later commented that he was simply never the same emotionally afterward. Although he rarely spoke about it publicly, the overwhelming pain of losing his son remained a constant, heavy presence for the remaining years of his life. Later, Pernell eventually found a more stable and peaceful relationship with his fourth wife, Eleanor Criswell, whom he married in 1997. They remained a couple until his death. But even in the comparative calm of those later years, the heavy shadows of his difficult past, the residue of broken marriages, professional regrets, and the overwhelming grief of losing a child, never entirely dissipated. Pernell Roberts was fundamentally a man who insisted on living his life completely on his own terms. But that highly coveted freedom always came at a steep personal and emotional cost. While the public saw a man of intense conviction, a confident and outspoken actor, only a select few truly grasped the full depth of sadness he quietly carried within his heart. His personal life was ultimately filled with love, profound loss, and the silent, exhausting battles he continuously fought long after the studio cameras stopped rolling. Colonel Roberts spent his final years living a highly private and tranquil life, far removed from the dazzling lights and relentless pressures of Hollywood's center. After his revolutionary departure from Bonanza at the very zenith of its success, he continued to act in both television and professional theater, but always under the strict ethical parameters he set for himself. In the 1980s, he successfully found a renewed, broader fame with the groundbreaking medical drama Trapper John M.D., where he perfectly embodied the title role, effectively earning a completely new, younger generation of fans. But even as the intensity of the spotlight gradually dimmed, Roberts remained consistent to his core values: fiercely private, deeply intellectual, and thoughtful, and absolutely unwilling to compromise his fundamental beliefs. In his very final years, Pernell deliberately stepped away from public life altogether. He made no appearances at fan conventions and rarely granted new interviews. Instead, he chose to focus intensely on his personal passions, including music, pursuing social justice causes, and prioritizing time with his closest circle of friends and family. However, unbeknownst to the public, he had been engaged in a private, courageous battle against cancer. On January 24, 2010, Pernell Roberts passed away peacefully at his residence in Malibu, California, at the age of 81. The official cause of death was pancreatic cancer, a devastating disease he had fought bravely but silently. His death represented the definitive end of an era. He was the last surviving primary member of the original Bonanza cast. Although Pernell never actively sought fame or played the political games of Hollywood, his deep impact on dramatic television and acting was indisputable. He was a foundational trailblazer who possessed the moral courage to walk away from a top-rated hit series simply because he believed it lacked intellectual depth. He was a powerful public voice against social and racial injustices long before such activism became widely popular or professionally acceptable. And he never once stopped pushing for more meaningful, more honest, and more challenging roles. Not solely for his own career, but for the fundamental integrity of acting itself. Fans remember him not just as the quietly strong Adam Cartwright, but as a man of true conviction and exceptional moral courage. His true legacy is not defined by the iconic roles he performed. It is defined by the uncompromising stands he consistently took, the huge risks he dared to embrace, and the final message he firmly left behind: that sometimes the most profound and courageous act a person can undertake is to simply walk away. Pernell Roberts may be gone from the stage, but his unwavering voice, both on-screen and off, still powerfully echoes through the hearts of all who admired his challenging work and deeply respected his non-negotiable principles. When Pernell Roberts died, he bequeathed much more than simple memories and his estimated financial fortune of $10 million. Most onlookers would correctly identify that fortune as the ultimate mark of professional success, the final payoff of a difficult lifetime spent working tirelessly in Hollywood. But for Pernell Roberts, the money itself was never the central point of his career. Fame never truly thrilled him. Large paychecks failed to impress his fundamental character. Even when his role on Bonanza made him one of the highest-compensated actors of the 1960s, earning a stunning nearly $10,000 per single episode, he remained privately and intensely restless, constantly searching for a purpose that ran far deeper than celebrity. While the public was focused on the glitz and shine of his television success, Pernell was privately wrestling with the harsh truth behind the curtain. He profoundly despised the way the entertainment industry twisted and corrupted genuine art into mere product, cynically turning heartfelt, honest performances into nothing more than easily marketable content. He actively resisted being a mere celebrity. His singular goal was to be a purposeful, ethical man. And yet, for a significant period, he did play the demanded game. He wore the required costume. He accurately hit his marks, and he watched the large checks reliably roll in. But his conscience was too fierce and demanding to ever let him fully settle into compliance. His personal principles were woven into a fabric far more durable than the shallow scripts he was handed. While millions of devoted fans were glued to their television sets watching his performance as Adam Cartwright, Pernell Roberts was simultaneously walking the dusty streets of Selma, Alabama, fearlessly marching side by side with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not participating as a famous star, but acting as a regular man who possessed the moral courage to not ignore palpable injustice. That profound act was not a performance role. That was uncompromising reality. Back on the set of Bonanza, he refused to stay silent either. He consistently challenged the powerful system that surrounded him. He demanded to know why there were no people of color represented among the crew, why white actors were continually cast in Native American roles, and why professional and social progress moved with such painful slowness. His insistent protests were never welcomed by the studio, but he never ceased speaking his truth. His family later confirmed that he did find some isolated support, but never enough to extinguish the powerful fire of conviction burning fiercely inside him. Pernell Roberts could have very easily continued down the comfortable path. He could have built a far larger financial empire, lived a life of secure, absolute luxury, and simply coasted on his immense fame. But he deliberately chose his enduring integrity over the immediate applause. He walked away from it all, not out of professional arrogance, but out of an unshakable, powerful yearning for ethical truth.